Anybody that hears be vulnerable automatically goes to weakness in their head. I know I've been that person. But how can people stop confusing that? It's an incredibly beneficial skill. And since I've learned like that it's not like a thing of bring your walls down, be weak, it is
Yeah.
hugely important in every walk of life.
With vulnerability comes power, right? Because you say to your audience, I'm not scared of you, but you don't have to be scared of me, right? I'm not here to get you and I'm not expecting to be got. And there is something incredibly powerful with that openness. Brené Brown is the kind of top person that's speaking about vulnerability. And I just love what she says about, the people that don't step into the arena basically shouldn't be allowed to comment, because unless you have put your whole self into what you are trying to do, then really you don't have a lot of room to stand on in terms of judging other people in their abilities to do it.
Yeah, Brené Brown's the GOAT in terms of vulnerability. Like I had a tweet about her a long time ago. It was like she done this like research because she wanted to try and knock the weakness aspect out of vulnerability. And she surprised herself doing it because she found that people who are more vulnerable, people that are willing to just open themselves up to the world and go, right, I'm going to take whatever I can from this, they were so much further developed in creativity and just general cognitive abilities. And she like generally looked at like what is it that makes it like that. And she like wrote underneath the research like the Oscar Wilde quote, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken." She realized that people opened themselves up the world and almost stood back like, oh shit, there's no one actually like me. I thought everybody was me. That's why I couldn't stand out. And I mean, it's just insane. Like anybody listening gets a chance, like Google Brené Brown.
Yeah,
Vulnerability.
absolutely.
You will have a fucking field day. It's the best rabbit hole to fall down, honestly. You now speak to large rooms and you help people almost develop their confidence in a way. And that big part of that is dealing with pressure or being under pressure. Tell me a little bit about what goes through your head when you're under pressure or you're under the spotlight and how you deal with the negative things that creep in and how you turn them into positive.
So I think the first thing to understand and reframe for yourself is that in 99% of instances, like people want you to succeed. I challenge anyone listening. If this isn't true, then put it in the comments and we'll have a conversation about it. But I don't think you've ever been to a meeting or turned up to a work all hands and thought, you know what, I really hope that the next 30 minutes is a complete waste of my life. You're like, for God's sake, give me something interesting. I want to find value. I want to be entertained. I want to be educated. So your audience want you to succeed. Your audience want something decent from you. So that's the first thing that you have to work out in your head. And then the other thing that's huge for me is that presence is about being present. And we spend so much of our lives thinking about the future, worrying what's going to come out of my mouth or will they like it, or being in the past and going, God, last time I did this, they all hated it and it was a disaster. And actually where we need to sit is in the present. So if you can take a deep breath, if you can get out of your head and into your body, that's why the kind of actor's toolkit is so powerful for this stuff. Because actually, if you move and stretch and get the blood pumping, jump up and down, touch your toes, it doesn't really matter. But if you can get out of the thinking and into the being, then suddenly, like, nerves don't really exist. Confidence isn't a thing. I think we're all innately confident. We don't have to be jazz hands. You don't have to be an extrovert to be interesting. You just have to be you on a good day.
I used to struggle with that too. I used to always think that like the spotlight was on me everywhere I went. Even though I'm doing nothing, I always thought people were putting the spotlight on me. And I read this thing about the spotlight effect, which is people really overestimate how much other people notice them. And
yeah, no one cares. No one cares about you.
I had a stress doctor on, and I asked him like, what's the main fix for people that have like chronic stress, but probably shouldn't have it. They make it up in their own head. And he says in his office, he's got this massive map, and it just looks like loads of black dots, and there's a little tiny red one in the very bottom corner. And he goes to them, can you find the red dot in this big poster? And they're like looking around for ages, and they have to get right up close. It takes them about 10 minutes. And they're like, there it is there. And he goes, that's what you look like in the world. No, but like there's so many people that don't have a clue who you are. Like You keep
Yeah.
walking, like people walk around with a spotlight. Oh, what is this person going to think? What is that person going to think? Most of the time, they probably don't even know you're doing anything. So you can play in that. And like you said about the people assume the worst straight away. Who was it was on, the speaking coach was on here? I can't remember his name now. This was at the very, very beginning of the show. He spoke about how the best speakers will never make it to light because they use their best work panicking people are going to hate them backstage. It's horrific. And I kept thinking about it, like people who rehearse what they're going to say before they go and meet their friends on a hand. You've used all your best stuff. You're never going to
Yeah.
get better stuff than that thing in the moment. But that must be a pain in the ass for you to help people understand, no?
I think it's once people see it, they can't unsee it. For me, it's about trying to give people an experience of it rather than intellectually tell them about it, because we are less likely to accept the theoretical concept. Whereas if we have that physical experience, we go, all right, that must be true.
Do you think charisma can be taught or it's a passed down trait?
I don't think it's a genetic thing. And I think charisma is different for different people. The kind of Nelson Mandela charisma is quiet and unassuming and slightly kind of childlike. Sometimes there's a kind of cheek. Whereas your Tom Cruise charisma is all out there and connecting and engaging. They're both as charismatic as each other, but in their own way to their own audience. So I don't think it's something that you should worry about. And I don't think it's something that you teach specifically. But again, I think it's something that develops when you get comfortable with being you. So we're kind of going back to that vulnerability piece again. When you can be you, then other people notice you.
I have a bit of a pushback on it because I like to do like a little bit of devil's advocate on this because people always say that the key to being confident is being yourself. Problem. A lot of people don't know themselves, and that's probably the reason why they're quite stuck in these things. So how can someone be themselves when they don't fully know who they are?
It's about connecting in the moment with whoever you're in front of. So it's not about playing a version of yourself. It's about being in the moment as you without trying to put anything else on top of it. So you'll discover who you are. This sounds a bit kind of deep and meaningful. We're not kind of taking this to a spiritual level necessarily, but if we're talking about how do I get comfortable being me, stop trying to be someone else.
The whole authenticity thing, like the being yourself and all that, how much of your acting background goes into these lessons of actors are successful for being someone else? So is there anything from that you learned that helped you help other people be themselves?
There is a general premise with most actors that they are using their own experience to develop the character. If I'm going to play a psycho, then I need to find the bit inside me that has the potential to be a psycho. That moment where I've just sort of completely irrationally lost the plot for no reason because my daughter's left Lego all over the living room carpet or whatever it might be. And then I have to turn that up. And for people thinking about, developing their range in the way that they communicate, it's about acknowledging that actually we are all different in different situations. So I'm going to guarantee that if you and I decided to go for a pint in a Belfast pub night, you would be different than if you were sitting around a kind of formal dining table with your 97-year-old relatives, and you'd be different than if you were in a work environment where your boss is delivering some bad news, for example. So you've got all of these different parts of yourself that you can play. And quite often, especially in a work context and a communication context, people narrow that down to like one or two notes on the keyboard, whereas actually there are octaves available to us. So it's about helping people understand the range that they already have and then allowing them to choose where that might be appropriate depending on the context.
In your line of work, you kind of have to be a bit of a master in communication, especially to teach some people that maybe don't think they need to be taught. And that's quite a hard skill to gain, especially in today's world. And I want to ask you if you think communication skills are kind of lacking now overall.
I think work from home has had a massive negative impact on it because we've lost that human connection to a certain degree. So many people are actually really rubbish at communicating down the lens of a camera as well. So the lighting's terrible. They're not looking at the audience, so they're nowhere near the lens. They're keeping the energy the same as if they were sitting next to you in their office, rather than actually thinking about projecting that energy to the people that they're talking to. So I think we have lost that art a little bit, but I don't think it's something that is impossible to get back. The more aware you are of the tools at your disposal, the more effective you are, which is why in the 2 books that I've written, I've been very clear that these are frameworks and toolkits that you can draw from. It's not absolute, you must follow this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and tick all the boxes. But if you read what I'm talking about and pick and choose the things that work for you, same with the videos that I put out on YouTube, these are some offerings. Build on it, make it your own. Don't just do it because I told you to.
So say we build a very basic framework now for someone that is lacking in communication. Like you said, after pandemic and the whole work from home, there is a lot of people that probably don't really know how to communicate properly anymore. What would like the basic A to B steps be for communication now?
If we start with just the how do I think about what to say? IMPACT, the book, is an acronym. So the acronym is intention, mindset, presence, audience, content, and technique. And I'd say if you just wanted one jumping off point, I'd stick with intention. So when you get clear on your intention, most of the rest of it takes care of itself. And intention should, in my opinion, have 3 elements. So you've got an intellectual intention in terms of what do I want this person to know? What's the information that I'm trying to get across? You have a behavioral intention in terms of what do I want this person to do? Do I want them to give me a pay rise? Do I want them to sign the contract? Do I want them to bugger off and leave me alone so I can get on with the rest of my day? And then you've got an emotional intention, which is how do I want people to feel? And most people never, ever think about the emotional intention. And that's the magic. That's what actors do. Actors are all about the emotional intention. How do I want this person to feel in this scene? Am I trying to manipulate them? Am I trying to excite them? Am I trying to provoke them? Am I trying to reassure them? And when you get really clear on that emotional intention, it changes not only the performance. So if I'm trying to reassure you, then the kind of tone changes and the way that I deliver my message is different than if I'm trying to excite you because, oh my God, this technique works and it's so important that you use it. So yes, the performance changes, but also the language changes because I'm going to use very different words if I'm trying to reassure you about a topic than I will if I'm trying to excite you. So if you want one thing that will absolutely change the way that you communicate, ask yourself 3 questions. What do I want my audience to know? What do I want my audience to feel? And what do I want my audience to do? And if you can answer those, you're 70% there.
There's a great breakdown on like the masters of communication, and it's something like 55% of meaningful communication is body language, 6% is tone, 7% is words, the rest no one really cares about. It's so perfect.
I mean, those statistics are from Alfred Morabian, and he actually he disputes that in the way that it's been used. So he's like, it's ridiculous just to say that it's 7% words, but as a concept, I think it's really useful. So I wouldn't say, yes, these are the percentages, but actually, if you can have the best idea in the world, right? But if you can't bring it to life in the hearts and the minds of your audience, then it's just an idea. So the words are only one part of the journey. You've actually got to take the concept and transmute it, transform it into energy so that people can actually act with it or act upon it.
It's a really good framework though, because like even like you look at the best storytellers in the world, like Dr. Rod Berger was on the show, and like, as words he used, they're very entry level. Like, there's kids that could read the words he's saying on a bit of paper and understand fully. Like, didn't any massive word breaking concepts or anything like that, but his tone changed in parts, like you were mentioning. When he wanted people to be excited, it went up. When he wanted people to actually hear what he was saying, it went down. His body language is perfect. Like, and I even said to him after, like, if he had like the basics of a good storyteller, and he literally said that if you focus less on the actual words that are coming out, so you stop overthinking the story and focus on just creating the aroma of a good story, it just flies out so much easier. And even listening to you, like, you don't say any massive concepts. Like, it's easy, simple words to follow. But I think that's where people get mistaken, because they think a good story needs to be complicated and needs people thinking all the time and shaking your head. Exactly.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. We're all just kids, really. We just want to watch cartoons. Keep it simple.
Don't start me on cartoons again, please. People's biggest fear in life is losing everything and having to start again. You, in a way, had that. You had to start again after the acting fell away. So what's your biggest fear now then?
I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Sometimes we're really scared of failure, and sometimes we're really scared of success. And I think if I'm honest, there is elements, not existential crisis elements or moments, but there are moments where I really fear the potential failure, and I fear what would happen if this was really bloody successful. I've got the book coming out in December, and there's a real desire that it's a success, but also, gosh, that's quite scary at the same time. So I think it's a kind of ever oscillating journey between the two.
Well, you've been on the receiving end of both, technically. So what is scarier? Is it success or failure?
I think success is scarier and more exciting.
Tell me a bit about this background you have, because it's quite weird and wacky. And I mean, there's one place I want to start. Did Simon Cowell's face move when he fired you?
I'd love to say that Simon was actually there when he fired me, but I was playing the lead in an ITV drama, and I have been expecting to be part of the show. It was a fictional version of The X Factor, and I was playing one of the lead singers, and Simon was a creative consultant on the show. The way that a film set works, you're in this particular show, we were in 6 days a week. It's very intense. You build really strong relationships with everyone. The directors and the producers and the writers were giving me all of the kind of positive signals that this is going great. And then one day I got told by the second AD that I was going to get a day off. And that was a bit of a shock. I thought, I'm going to have a gym day, and I'm going to go and treat myself to a new pair of trainers and a new workout gear. And I was in Dublin filming this, and I got a phone call from the producer saying, can you come home? We're having a cast meeting. And I was like, God, do I have to? And she was like, no, I really want you to come back. So I said, well, give me an hour, I'll get back, and then we can talk about whatever we need to talk about. I turned up at my apartment, and she wasn't around. No one else was around. It's a bit strange. Thought, it doesn't matter, I'm busy. I was working with Westlife's producers to put a song together for the show, so I'm kind of playing on the piano and singing away. And all of a sudden, my UK mobile went, and it was my agent's number on the phone. And I picked up the phone, and Claire said, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but Simon Cowell doesn't like the way you look, and they're paying you out of your contract.
Oh my God.
And I'm laughing about it now, but if I'm really honest, that was like one of those rug pulled out from under your feet, horrific moments in life where you kind of go, hang on, I just don't get this. And essentially it turned out that Simon had seen the rushes, decided that I was too boy band, blonde hair, blue eyes, and he wanted someone more grungy. And they've been going back and forth over it for a couple of weeks. Simon won. I mean, understandably, he's Simon Cowell. Come on. So he was like, it's him or me. And they went, all right, bye-bye, Dominic. Here's your check, and we'll book you a one-way ticket back to London.
Your acting reel is quite like a short chapter in your life, but there's so much in it. I mean, Thunderbirds, Midsummer Murders, like, you work with some massive directors and stuff like that. But somehow that's not the biggest, like, eyes need to look at you moment in your life. Like, tell me about this misplacing $1 million, we'll say.
I always say that my claim to fame is that I'm probably the only person in the room that's flown a spaceship, lost $1 million and been fired by Simon Cowell. So for those of you that are watching, I've got Thunderbird 2 behind me here. I played Virgil Tracy in the Hollywood remake of Thunderbirds back in 2004 with Sir Ben Kingsley and Bill Paxton. At the time, the biggest budget British film that had ever been made, £65 million film, being made by Working Title and Universal Pictures. It's an iconic show in the UK, the Puppet series, and they were really excited about it. We had been signed up for a 3-movie deal, and while we were on set, everyone was like, this is happening, this is great, we love it. And the upshot for me out of the 3-movie deal was that for the first film, I got paid very modestly. For the second film, I was going to get $250,000. And for the third film, I'd signed this contract for $1 million. And we went out to Tokyo and did all of the kind of press junket. We did the UK premiere with Busted playing the theme tune and all of that nonsense. And then about a week and a half after the film was released in the US, suddenly there was just tumbleweed. And my agent was trying to kind of find out what was going on because we were meant to be booking in dates for the next shoot. And essentially what had happened is it hadn't done its numbers in the US, and therefore they decided that they weren't going to proceed. But the frustrating thing is that actually the film was scheduled to be an Easter release. And because everyone got so excited and thought it was so good, they bumped it up to a summer release, which meant that it went out against Shrek 2 and Spider-Man 2. And it just couldn't compete because no one in the US had a clue what these, family of brothers who were flying spaceships saving the world were up to. But if we'd have had that chance, I might not be talking to you from Yorkshire. I might be talking to you from Hollywood right now.
Might have a few Hollywood stories too. So using all that, I mean, I would say that's kind of where your fame is. You were like at that point, you would have been famous, I would have said.
Yeah. I mean, it was signing autographs and all of that sort of nonsense. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. You're the first person I've had on the show with that period. And it's always played in my mind. Is there a point where that fame feels more like pressure than like a prize of your success?
Start to become quite self-conscious was my experience of it, that suddenly you worry more about what you look like and what you're getting invited to and what you're not getting invited to. And bearing in mind that I was doing this before smartphones, before social media, so there was none of that like Instagram pressure or someone on the street getting their camera phone out and recording me stumbling out of a bar at midnight. But there was a huge amount of like internal focus. And I think for me, that was the thing that was least aligned to my values as a human being. I spent too much time worrying about myself. And actually one thing that I get a huge amount of pleasure and motivation from is helping others. And so that was the kind of disconnect for me with that acting career. And also your ego has an opportunity to run away with itself. And I remember having a diva moment in the makeup chair because someone hadn't bought me a cup of tea at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was suddenly like, hang on, what's going on here? But the thing was that I wasn't allowed to get up out of the chair and walk the 300 meters to the catering wagon to make my own cup of tea because someone was assigned to me to be making it. So when they didn't make it, I was frustrated and I became a bit of an idiot. So I can see how actors get a bad name for that type of behavior.
I'm interested on this ego thing, so I want to stay here for a little second because you mentioned the ego in that moment. And to be fair, whenever you hear what you're talking about and you put people in your head that you know and stuff, you can tell where that ego does come from. But I'm interested in something particular with you. When that did go away and it vanished, like it does go away quite quickly, how did you handle your ego then? What happens to it? Because everyone just assumes that you could grow with confidence in that, but it's not really a confidence, as I'm sure you found out.
Yeah, it's really hard because it is so superficial. And I remember the day that I had to apply to a call center to go and make customer service calls to pay my rent. It was deeply embarrassing, actually, at that moment to kind of think, oh gosh, someone could recognize me from that thing and see me now sitting in a call center talking to people about their charity donations or whatever it was at the time. It's really difficult to manage. And what I had to do do was work out like essentially who I was, not who other people thought I was, who I was and who I wanted to be, get comfortable with taking more responsibility for the direction that I wanted to walk in the world.
You said that you had to figure out who you were, because there's a lot of people probably at the same age you were at the time now that need to do that, and they didn't have the fame, they didn't have money, they didn't have the validation at the time and stuff like that. How did you go about that? Because that's quite difficult for someone who came from an industry that relies quite a lot on validation.
So there were a kind of series of things that were going on for me at the time. So whilst I was acting, I was also directing and I was also teaching. So I taught at some of the big drama schools, RADA, Drama Centre, Birmingham School of Acting, those sorts of places. I realised that I had a skill for helping people unlock their own performance, and that it didn't have to be about me for me to have a huge sense of satisfaction and enjoyment. So that was kind of one stream. But the other stream was that I went and did some personal development stuff. I went and took some courses, tried to get a toolkit together to have more agency and more choice rather than being at the whim of other people all the time.
You mentioned there that you found you had a bit of a skill for helping people almost bring out them real selves almost in a way. Like, how do you discover that? Because that's not something that just appears in front of your face.
I think it was just a feedback loop. Like, the actors that I work with really seemed to enjoy working with me and their performances improved. And the students that I was teaching were giving me a huge amount of trust. And again, I was seeing their performance improves. I think it was through the doing of it rather than some sort of intellectual knowing of it helped me kind of realize that actually I am good at this. And also I enjoy it. And I think for those younger listeners that are sort of sitting there at that turning point going, oh God, I'm a bit fed up. I don't really know who I am right now. I'm always reticent of that kind of like, just follow your passion. Like, no, maybe not quite that broad, but do you enjoy what you're doing? Do you get a sense of, contribution and doing something that's kind of bigger than you? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably worth kind of looking in that direction.
Tell me a bit about what it felt to start over again, because you're going on to something completely different now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been running my own business for 12 years, working within the kind of training and coaching industry for probably more like 15. I found that beginning time actually really exciting because like the pressure was quite low in the sense that I didn't have to be an expert. I was someone at the beginning of that journey and I could experiment, and I surrounded myself with really good people. And I worked with and for others rather than trying to kind of be the star of the show. And so I had a little bit of kind of cover so that I could work it out and I could watch what other people were doing and what worked well. And it was incredibly creative. So that I think that's why it was a relatively easy choice to go, this is what I want to do full time, because it still scratched that creative itch for me. It wasn't like I just left that side of my career behind completely.
I want to stay on this little area 1 second longer because I have a question about it. When you kind of came to terms that acting may be over, like you mentioned, you had to apply to a call center and that was a bit of a bittersweet feeling. Looking back now, do you think failure is a useful tool in a way?
It's vital to help you relate to other people. I think when people have unmitigated success, they've literally got no touch point with reality. And so therefore it's difficult to relate to those individuals. So for me, that kind of failure or struggle is just where you find out about who you are, rather than something that's shameful or needs to be buried. I'm very open about that kind of time in my life and the highs and lows that went all the way through. I mean, that call center job was straight after Thunderbirds. And then I went on to do other really nice acting jobs and went back into that kind of space. And then that would dry up for a little bit and you'd have to do some more teaching work or whatever it might be to pay the bills. So it was always a bit of a roller coaster through that part of my career.
When did your perception of validation change? Because in acting, it's very eyes on and many cameras can flash on you and makes you realize you're doing a good job. But in your job now, your results is based on how many people you can help. And that's two very different roles of validation. When did you realize what the good side of validation was?
I don't think I've ever kind of made a massive distinction between the two, because I think when, from a performance perspective, it shouldn't be about you. I went to a very intense drama school, a place called Drama Centre London, which doesn't exist anymore, but the kind of actors that were there, Tom Hardy was in the year above me, so very kind of method, but it was incredibly principled, and it was based on this idea that acting and theatre and film and television have this power to transform, and that we're not in the kind of clickbait world of just trying to get views and having people kind of mong out with a bowl of popcorn. So that was what I saw as success as an actor, was transforming my audience. And that's now what I see as success as a speaker and as a coach, is transforming the people that I work with. So when I speak an audience at a conference now, I don't really care whether I get a standing ovation or some lukewarm clap off the stage. Thankfully, the latter doesn't happen too often. What I really love is when people email me afterwards or come up to me and go, that has completely shifted my perspective, or I absolutely love that and I'm going to use that. So yeah, it's that transformative thing that is so important to me.
You mentioned your acting training. People probably won't know now because you said it doesn't exist, but that acting school it's very, very good. Like there's a lot of successors came out of that and a lot of incredible actors came out of that. But is there anything in that acting training, like even just one piece, that you think everybody could do with the learning?
I think it really challenged you to be vulnerable. A lot of the premise was about breaking down the barrier between you and the audience, allowing yourself to be seen. And there were elements of that were quite extreme. But as a general rule for life, I think the more prepared you are to be vulnerable, to mess it all up, make mistakes, fall on your face, actually, the more enjoyable the journey is for you and for the people that you're interacting with.
I'd probably say 1,000 words, doesn't it? But so you mentioned the book. Plug it. Tell people where can they find you. What have you got coming out? What's coming in the future?
Yeah, a new book, Cut Through the Pitch and Presentation Playbook, which is coming out on the kind of December in all good bookstores. And it really is there to be a guide. So if your kind of worst nightmare is giving a presentation or speaking in front of an audience, then I walk you through a 6-step methodology that's going to take you from a blank piece of paper to hopefully standing ovation and beyond. And if people want to connect with me for just more kind of fun content, then head over to YouTube and watch my videos there. I love getting input from my listeners and my viewers. So if you've got a topic that you want me to make a video about, then just let me know and we'll put it on the production slate.